Welcome back, guys, to another video. So we have an update regarding the Paramount deal with the UFC. Dana White came out today after the Dana White Contender Series and explained a little bit more of the Paramount deal. So first, to recap what we heard the first day, the deal was a seven. This deal was a $7.7 billion deal for 7 days. That's about a billion each year. And the best news about this is that there will no longer be pay-per-views, and you'll only have to pay about $8 a month. So that's about $115 a year, opposed to the $1,000 you were paying out of pocket. Or some of y'all were paying out of pocket. I was definitely paying out of pocket. Definitely. Right? So, it came out today, and he gave us some more updates, and we're gonna go through them all. All right.
And start to game plan for January.
The decision to largely shy away from pay-per-view, I know you said it may still be on the table, but stay over. I mean, how difficult of a decision was that to make?
It's not that it's on the table. I mean, the whole thing started going out. Pay-per-view's dead. Pay-per-view's not dead. We're on pay-per-view on Saturday, and the pay-per-view business is still very much alive and well. But we were talking about potential pay-per-view with other streaming partners that we were talking to in the deal, but just not in this one. And who knows what could happen. The beautiful thing about this business is every year something happens that I don't see coming. A fight that you never thought would happen, or who knows. I mean, now we're doing boxing and we're doing MMA. Who knows what could happen, and anything could be a pay-per-view. Something could be a pay-per-view still.
Does this require like massive restructuring of like fighter pay? I mean, they used to be pay-per-view partners.
So when the news first came out, the most exciting news was that we won't have to pay for pay-per-views anymore. We won't only have to pay for the subscription. But Dana's looking like he doesn't want to let go of that. Why? So he obviously thinks that there's still money in pay-per-views. I think if there are pay-per-views, I think he's gonna make them these four major events that he was talking about. Things like the White House, or maybe like an international fight night, maybe those type of thing. Hopefully, hopefully they don't start adding pay-per-views and saying, "Oh, look, this is a big card. Let's make you pay $80." Hopefully that's not the case. I don't think that's the case. But Dana's just not letting go of this pay-per-view thing, man. I think I think I think the reason they even dropped the pay-per-views was because so many people were pirating the pay-per-views and were just going onto illegal sites and streams. But um I don't think they're gonna do any more pay-per-views, man. I don't think it's worth it, and I think start noticing the revenue that starts coming out of not doing pay-per-views and how many more views they start getting. I think they're just gonna drop the pay-per-views for completely and just gonna stop talking about it. That's what I hope.
Partners with you right now. Now, what's the carrot or the encouragement to be the superstar?
It's not massive restructuring. We got a bunch of smart kids over there that work in the accounting department to figure out how to make all this stuff work. But it's so good for the fighters. And what I loved about being with one company that made such a big investment in us is they're all in with us. So the fighters are going to get tons of promotion. Built by all these different unbelievable networks that these guys own, and these are aggressive, smart guys that are going to build a big media company.
Yeah.
Says, how do you sort of figure out the fighter pay rise?
Right, so the reason this question was asked about the fighter pay restructuring with the new Paramount deal is because a lot of the contracts that the fighters have was whatever they sold with pay-per-views. This was pretty much for all the champions, and a couple of the superstars in the UFC. They would get paid based on how much pay-per-views they sold. Well, that was added on, plus the money they were gonna make anyways, just showing up and fighting. So with no more pay-per-views, what extra money would they make? That's what the question is revolving about around. Dana says he doesn't know, that they still have to figure it out, which is kind of surprising considering that this is a big company and you would think that they already have all this figured out. Um, we still have 3 months, which is, I don't know, a little bit of time because they have 100 fighters on their contract. You also still got to figure out how much you're gonna pay, even the people that were not making money off of the pay-per-views. You still got to figure out how much the pay is going to be increased with, because all the fighters now know that the company is going to make $7.7 billion just off the contract with Paramount. They're all going to be asking for money. I feel like this is going to be a mess for a while. They only have 3 months. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to resolve all this within 3 months. And for the champions, making the pay-per-view points, what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to be like, okay, this is what you made on average when you fought, and we're just gonna pay you that, maybe a little bit more. Um, I hope a little bit more. $7.7 billion the company's gonna make. So I'm not really sure. Are they gonna do it based on viewership? That could be another thing, right? When you fight, how many views does the event get? I'm not really sure. Uh, I'm guessing that's how you do it. That's how YouTube does it. That's how any other platform does it. It's just a little bit tricky because you are live streaming the event. Um, but I'm guessing that's how they're going to do it based on viewership of the event. And yeah.
How do you sort of figure out the fighter pay rising?
Yeah. These are. Listen, I'm not going to have any comments on that yet because we still got to get together and figure this stuff out. It's August. We have till January to figure all that stuff. But the low hanging fruit that's easy to answer. Bonuses are obviously going up. So, that'll be big. And forget about the tide rising with all the other fighters. I mean, just the number that the bonuses bring to a fighter is,
That's what,
millions of dollars.
You don't know where contenders.
All right. So this is obviously good news for the fighters. Dana White said that the bonuses are going to be going up. He said bonuses because he didn't want to say fighter pay because then he would have to raise the fighter pay for every single fighter. So he was like, oh, I'm going to just raise the bonuses. But obviously, bonuses, it's still a big part of the contract deals. Um, I'm pretty sure the fighters are going to be making more than what they make now, right? It's just business. When you hear that a company is making more money off of you, you're going to ask for more, and the UFC is going to have to give them more than just the bonuses, like Dana White is saying. But to be honest, man, I kind of don't think the fighters get paid more. If they fight less, that's just the truth, right? Then they want the big money fights. They only fight once a year. Like when they're poor and they got nothing to lose, and they fight like 5 times a year. That's when the UFC is more exciting, rather than like three guys just waiting for the champion to choose them. But that's good news for the fighters. The fighters are gonna get bigger bonuses. I'm guessing every bonus is gonna now be like 100K for knockout and fight of the nights. So that's good for the fighters.
that's what,
Millions of dollars.
You don't know where Contender Series lands yet, but you had talked when you were talking with other partners that they want twice as many Contender Series. Is that still something that you're talking about, or with this, does that change things?
Yeah, everybody loves the Contender Series, so we're still working on it. We got to figure it out. There's still a lot of moving pieces and parts to this deal.
Hey, if you want to be a reporter and you ever get to ask Dana a question, you gotta be like, "What about Power Slap, Dana? That has to be on there. That has to be on there. Is Power Slap gonna be on Paramount?" But it's sounding like they're negotiating at the moment. To my guess, I think it will be on there. I think that's a pretty good add-on. I like the Dana White Contender Series. It's a good show. I think a lot of people do watch it. I think the hardcore fans do watch it for sure. I'm just not sure if it gets enough views too from the casuals. Uh, but it's a good show. It would be nice to have everything on one platform rather than just being on Paramount, just like the pay-per-views being on Paramount. And then you got the Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, and, and Power Slap. Not that I care about Power Slap. If you're gonna have um, the UFC events on Paramount, just include the whole package. So we'll have to switch back and forth and then pay for two separate subscriptions. This happens a lot in soccer, where you get different leagues on different platforms, and you have to switch back and forth between ESPN, Paramount, Peacock, The Zone, and it does get annoying switching between all those and having to pay between all the subscriptions. Yeah. But hopefully they do get the Contender Dana White series onto Paramount, so we won't have to switch back and forth.
Now that you no longer have to sell a pay-per-view, does that mean you don't necessarily have to stack the numbered events so deep and you spread the roster a little bit?
That's not the way I think. That's not the way I think. We're going to go in with to this Paramount deal, guns a-blazing, and no, that's not the way I think. I don't go, let's water this shit down now. We don't have to. Exact opposite. Description.
With the model,
All right, so they're asking them if the pay-per-views are going to be watered down because of the new Paramount deal. Because he's making so much money now, they don't have an incentive to stack the cards because they already made the $7.7 billion in its beta stuff subscriptions. So they don't really have to make anybody buy the pay-per-views if they technically have already bought them. You're still gonna have 43 events, the same that we had with ESPN. Um, and the problem with having 43 events is it might be too much because of the number of fighters and superstars that are limited in the UFC. So how many fighters, how many good fights can you put onto 43 events? You would have to spread them out. So obviously some of those fights would have to be, some of those fight cards are gonna have to be blacklisted. Um, Listen, it's the same amount of events we had with ESPN, so I think the quality is probably gonna be the same as it was with ESPN. Obviously, Dana White said there's going to be four major events. I'm assuming that's the White House, International Fight Week, um, a fight in December, and something like Noche UFC. Those four. Um, I think they're going to be the same. Dana White said that he's not the type to cheapen the cards for just the money, but like we've seen it before. Uh, He is that type of guy, to be honest. We've seen it plenty of times, especially this year, where the events were like watered down, and some of the fight cards were just like, "What is this? Should I even pay for this?" Like the Dustin and Max Holloway fight, the card was just for Dustin. So it's just lying here. He is that type of guy.
the model that you have now with Paramount, does that mean we can do numbered events in other countries prime time locally? So, for example, the Manchester event, could you now do that at prime time in the UK?
All that stuff still needs to be worked out.
Okay.
Looking
Um, so what he's talking about is that whenever they went to the UK, places at the UK, they would have to fight like 3 o'clock in the morning, just so people in the USA could view the pay-per-view at a good time. So now they're asking if this is gonna change. And Dana White says he doesn't know. They're obviously working on it. Again, something that I thought they would have figured out before the contract was sealed, but I guess not. In my opinion, I don't think that's gonna change. I think it's gonna be the same thing it was with ESPN, just because you do make more money if you make it at 3 o'clock in the morning for the UK. You get to have more views at a certain time, and you make more money that way. It's just business. I don't think there's much you can do about it.
At Paramount, is that possibly still the lead destination for where TKO Boxing or Zuffa Boxing is going to go?
We'll see. We don't have that deal done yet. We'll announce that when it's done.
So now that I care about the TKO boxing thing, the TKO boxing thing is Dana White's boxing company that he's trying to start. I think they already had one event, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it looked like they're negotiating that. Like I said, if they're gonna have the UFC events, if they're gonna have all the UFC things, I hope they have them on one platform just so we have to switch back and forth. I'm not too interested in the whole boxing thing, but it might be cool to watch it once in a while. So just make it on this on Paramount too, and yeah, hopefully they have everything together.
So in Brazil,
The new deal is the U.S. only.
yeah, in Brazil, do you have any? Are you willing to have a negotiation like that, a different platform or another partner?
Yes, we still have the rights to the rest of the world. So yes, we will negotiate, deals when they're up.
This is a little bit confusing. What it sounded like is that the Paramount deal is done in the USA, so we're going to get all the events, all the UFC events for sure on Paramount. Now, what it's sounding like, the rest of the world isn't going to be able to do that as of yet. So there's a chance where the UFC, let's take this for example, the USA is going to have the UFC events on Paramount, but the UK is going to have to watch it on the Zone. If the UFC does decide to sell it to the Zone, that's what it's sounding like. That would be terrible because uh, this doesn't seem right. The USA is watching on Paramount, but now they're watching the other UK is watching on the Zone. But even worse, right? What if the UK? What if Dana he could deal with ESPN? For the rest of the world, it looks like, no, you know what? The rest of the world has to pay pay-per-view with ESPN. No wonder he's been saying that pay-per-view isn't there. That's worst case scenario. But I do believe the rest of the world is going to be on Paramount. The other thing that is confusing is that the Zone only paid $7.7 billion to the UFC just for the United States to watch it on Paramount. That also doesn't make sense to me. But that's what it sounds like. It sounds like the rest of the world, as of yet, won't be able to watch it on Paramount. I'm pretty sure the UFC is gonna make that deal, close it soon. I don't see why not. But yeah, that's all the information Dana White gave today on the Dana White Contender Series. I'll let y'all know if there's any more updates. And overall, it's pretty good news. No more. The biggest thing, we won't have to pay for any more pay-per-views. It does worry me a little bit that Dana is saying that pay-per-views aren't dead. Man, just kill it, man. Start it with the fly, with the hand or something, man. Just kill it. There's no point of it. Everybody pirates the fights anyways. But yeah, see you guys to the next video or to the next update.